The next slide that I'm going to be discussing is being able to reach all students as a teacher. This is one of probably the hardest issues that going in as a first-time teacher you will probably have to conquer, as the diversity of students that are walking through the school doors these days is changing very rapidly. Like the first one there, the English language learner, that's kind of the ELL, but you could go on to the ESL, the LEP, the EFL. There are so many terms that English language learners or English proficient learners can be lumped under, but basically they are students that their first language may not be English. It could be Portuguese, it could be Chinese, it could be Spanish. It doesn't really make any difference what they are. That's how they are coming through the doors. The ELLs are the fastest growing population of students right now. They comprise about 10% of the national K through 12 enrollment. I would have said, 5 years ago in Beloit, you'll never see an ELL, nothing like that. You'll never see an ELL teacher. They just hired one last year full time. It sounds like they're going to be adding some more ELL teachers on in the future. The hardest thing about an ELL is you can't lump them all together. Some of the students may not have been born in the United States. Some may have been brought here. That doesn't really make any difference about the student. Most ELL students are probably on the low end of the economic status, just because of what type of immigration that has happened. These students sometimes do struggle academically because of the fact when they come here they are not adapt to this type of instruction. A lot of the instruction that they have done is family based. They learn as they're going. Most of them learn the trait that their family does. If that is migrant workers, they're learning at a young age that doing things, working hard, picking vegetables, moving on down. That's the way they do it. They're not a real structured type of student. You may have them one year, you may miss them, then you might have them back again the next year in the school. So really tough people to instruct. The biggest thing is I was in a classroom last year with a couple of ELL students. Even though they didn't have them, they still treated them as such in the classroom. I really loved them. Smarter than a whip. Maybe had a little difficulty with sometimes of the English. Had to, they kind of look at you like, what do you mean by that? So you had to kind of work around that kind of thing. Me being a new teacher, a little green behind the ears, I was more than willing to jump down to explain, take a few more minutes than the normal classroom teacher probably had or wanted to at that point. So that's just one of the parts that we as teachers need to start rolling towards, is them type of students. So the next one's going to be the gifted and talented students. What can you say about these? God, don't you wish all your students were these? Probably not, because some of the gifted and talented students that I know of sometimes could be a real pain in the butt. But that's what they are. These students here, basically they are students where part of their intelligence is rapidly growing. maybe not their physical features and things like that, but their brain is learning at such a high motor that you need to push these students. I think we talked about, is it too much to where do you overload these students and things like that? I think if it's a good student, I think they'll tell you when they're, I've had enough. This is enough for me. I don't need to be pushed anymore. You wish you take some of these students and, push them towards, like the STEM project they have now, the science, and science and math and them kind of things. Allow them students to push themselves in them types of things. And, maybe some of the students don't like to be pushed. Maybe you do have to push them themselves. So, real tough group. I see as, you'd wish sometimes you'd have them in your class. Probably sometimes you wish you wouldn't. But they're going to be there. There's probably not a high percentage of students that you'll see. Probably less than 5%, maybe 10%. But you're probably not going to see a tremendous amount of these students coming through your doors. But if you do, push them, let them learn. That's kind of where they need to be. Language and speech development. These are just students that need more work on their language and speech. It's kind of funny. I was actually talking to one of my fellow parents a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about speech and speech development, and they have a student that's it's a preschool student and has somewhat of a speech impediment and things like that. Lazy tongue, more or less, probably is what I would call it. We got to talk about IEP, and they were like, "Well, I'm not putting my kid on an IEP. He's not stupid," and this kind of thing. And it's like, wait. An IEP is not meaning they're stupid. An IEP is meaning that they need an individual educational program. They need specific help. We're going to get you that specific help as a school, and it may not only be a school. It may be a speech pathologist. It may be a psychologist. It may be who knows what it is, but it's a group effort to make sure that student is getting exactly of what it needs. And we just went through a lot of that with that parent, and I even explained that, hey, it's bad to say, my oldest son right now, he's in Hayes, he's doing physics, it's probably some of the hardest math you could probably do. Calc 3, three-dimensional math. You go ahead and try to explain that one to me, but he was on an IEP, and they looked at me like, no way, and I was like, yeah, he was on an IEP. He had speech problems. He had a lazy tongue. My daughter does too. She's a junior, beautiful daughter, going to be a senior next year. IEP. I had an IEP for lazy tongue. So just one of them things where kind of got to be open to that. You got to relay to your parents that these things are not to put your son or daughter down. These things are to pull them up above the water and make them succeed, where if let be float along, probably will slowly sink. And that's not what we want as teachers. That's not what we want. We want every student to feel some kind of academic success. Is every student going to be a physics major? No. Every student will have a place eventually. It took me 20-some years to go back to school. Would I have done it when I'm coming out of school? No, I wouldn't have put this much effort towards school. Now looking back, would I wish I didn't? Yeah, I wish I had different paths at that point. So it'll take time to find these kids where they need to be, but the biggest thing is making sure that we're reaching each and every student each and every day, making sure they go home happy, successful, not overburdened student that will dislike school year after year after year. So that's a little bit of how I interpret some of these four students groups. I hope that allows me to become a good teacher. Not a great teacher, just good. I know where to shoot for. So moving on to the next slide.